Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are back with another Neurodiversity Stories. My name is Darren Clark. I'm the host of this. We broadcast this every single Friday at 11 a.m. UK time, and we always have an amazing array of people that are eager to come on and share their neurodiversity stories. Put my teeth back in, and today, with no exception, we have an amazing guest for you. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome Robert Keates. He's an incredible individual. We linked up on LinkedIn a while back. He's doing some phenomenal stuff. He's a dance lecturer and transformation and dyslexia coach. And Rob will be sharing with us his journey of being in the arts and how he embraced the culture he was in and worked to find his power within his dyslexia. He is now fulfilling his future as a transformation coach specialising in dyslexia. I hope I did, Rob, justice on the introduction on there. I could chat to this guy for hours, and I know you guys are going to absolutely love him. So, guys, why are we here, and why are we doing the neurodiversity stories? So, like I said, my name is Darren Clark. I found out that I was dyslexic and had ADHD at the age of 36. And what I've been doing over the past many years is creating a global awareness around neurodiversity in organizations and in the educational system. And one of the things I thought I would do is create a neurodiversity stories to hear other people's stories. And without fail, I'm going to bring on my my first guest. Well, I say that every week. I'm going to bring on my only guest for today. And here we go. Here's Rob. Rob, good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. It's been a morning, but it's good.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again for agreeing to come on to our neurodiversity stories. It's amazing. When I put the post out to ask for guests, you were pretty quick in responding, and I was absolutely thrilled to be able to have you on the show. So I introduced yourself but it'd be great if you can tell the viewers just a little bit about you and what you do. That would be amazing.
Yeah, so this is often one where I kind of go, where do I start?
Pull up a chair.
For me, I got diagnosed as I went to uni, which is when I was 18, with dyslexia. And I kind of, from there, I was so kind of, I don't really want to acknowledge that I'm dyslexic, or I don't want that to be a thing. And so I kind of went, what can I do with my life? And because I was never really academic, and I'll get onto that a bit later, but I kind of went like, right, I'm going to go and do dance. Just out of the blue. There was no kind of like pre-thinking. I'm going to go and be a dancer. So I went to university and was like, oh, I really enjoy this. So then I auditioned and got into one of the top schools in London, which was Trinity Laban, and did my 3 years there. And then I did 10 years as a professional dancer, working in various companies and internationally and nationally. And then I really discovered a passion for teaching. And I think that coincides with my passion now working with neurodiversity and working with students, because I'm also a lecturer at the university I trained at. And I also do learning support there. So I help the specific students that have I was specialised in dyslexia. So, and that's specifically for people who are training and they have dyslexic needs. So, because my whole research, because then from my training and from everything I did, I got really interested in my dyslexia and actually thinking, how did my dyslexia affect me? Because for me as a dancer, I didn't really know at the time what was the struggles I were having or like what kind of went on. So I then really looked at myself and went, right, what was that? Well, how did I struggle? What was my struggle? Because evidently there was. And you were told this all the time. Maybe it was like, what are your right and lefts? What is tracking for you? How do you process the information? Because as dancers, we get so much information. You might have an hour's piece of dance. Like, you've got so much information to remember and memory and all that sort of stuff that, you know, there must have been challenges along the way that I've also just kind of found my own strategy for. So then I realized that I actually have my own method. And I thought this method might really work for others. So I created a research project around my method. And now I'm trying to create this kind of way of working for students in practical courses that can really help them identify and maybe then play with that and make a bespoke strategy that works for them. So that's kind of my route.
No, that's absolutely incredible, and I find that incredibly fascinating. And even dance. Okay, I'm not gonna say that I'm a dancer in any way, shape, or form. But even with my personally, we know that with dyslexia, it's different for every single individual. Someone's dyslexia is different from another person's dyslexia. Yes, there's the similarities, but my dyslexia would be different to yours in the sense of you will struggle with some things and thrive in others. And I think about when one of the interesting things I thought about yourself was the dance element. So my I don't know if it's my coordination. In the sense, and sometimes I'm not going to blame dyslexia on this, but sometimes the memory element of things, even when I was doing kind of like an exercise video or something, and they try and get a pattern, it's kind of lift, squat, or whatever, those kind of those elements. It takes me quite a amount of time to try and correlate what it is they're doing, then copy it, and then lo and behold, they're on to the next move anyway. Have you ever noticed that? But maybe not in yourself, but in any other students?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I've noticed it in myself especially, and I think it does come down to mentality about it, to be honest. For me, it comes down to mentality, because like when I was doing my contemporary classes, I was always a lot more free. I was exploring. I was more curious than I was if I was doing ballet. And in ballet, I would end up copying, and I'd be like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't. Yeah. But I would literally just be like, because it's a very structured thing. So that's when I started to notice that actually for me, anything that's quite structured, I find quite hard to follow, or I might automatically go into overthinking mode. I need to work harder. I need to work harder because of this, because of that. I need to actually focus. Then I'm forgetting what I'm doing, and I'm not dancing anymore. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I'm similar to that with martial arts. So I do martial arts, form of kind of karate, and the sparring, fine with to a certain degree. Although funny enough, with the sparring element is they put kind of pads on, and I always still think at the age of 44, I still think that I can take on someone who's kind of 20, who's just like an athlete, so that element of sparring seems fine until I get literally it's 2 minutes of fight for survival. But the form element of that, where you have to kind of, it's a very kind of calming, forms and knowing some of them up to sort of 20-25 moves, which simultaneously, choreographing with dance, that sheer memory of it, that's a massive skill to be able to do.
Well, I often, in my research, I found this, in a sense, a kind of diagram, or I can't remember what, there's a specific word for it. Someone says it all the time at me, but I'm like, yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
That's the diagram I found, fantastic. And I always think about, so I always say to my students, you've got your left and your right hemisphere, but I always call them the creative and the analytical.
Nice.
Because I'm like, there's not really any difference, and you want to find that bit in between. If you see them as two circles, and you've got the two circle bit in the middle that overlaps. That's my point where I go, that's the exploration. Find what you're comfortable with working in your creative, find what you're comfortable working with in your analytical, and explore that and mold those things together. And that's where I find the bespoke strategy for them, because then we're really honing in on what their experience is and how they're experiencing it. Because as you said before, no dyslexia is the same. No one person has the same, there's not one pill I can give or one kind of strategy I can give that works for all. And I say to them also, like, you need more than one. So this is why it's not just one bespoke strategy is going to help you in every kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? All of the stuff you're going to do in your life. That one strategy is not going to help that whole thing, but you want to have a way of working. You want to have a processing. You want to work on your processing. So you want to find a way to help that with this strategy or multiple strategies that can kind of mold you, and it becomes second nature after a while. It's a lot worse.
It does. for me, it's a kind of, the repetition really kind of helps. So if, for instance, and I say forms because it kind of, is a, I guess, some people will say it's a form of dance, when you're kind of doing, your certain moves and everything. Those elements, I mean, for me, I would go to class. I would, when they say forms, I would get that kind of nervousness, if I'm honest, because that element of thinking, oh my goodness, if I'm gonna, if you're gonna mess up, if you're not gonna remember, and like you overthink. And what I do is I actually asked very early on if the sensei could film them doing the full forms from start to finish. And I literally took that away and I just absorb it. So I just watch and watch and watch and watch and watch until it kind of goes in. It doesn't always work, but that element of learning for me, really does help.
Yeah. And I saw that in my students, because we would work, and I say to them often, this idea of notating is a way to work with memory, right?
Yes.
You can write it down. The act of doing, often with dyslexia, or whether that's you've got a mix of everything in neurodiversity realm umbrella, there's this act of notating, and that could be as simple as writing lists. Writing that down is almost like a contract to yourself, right? Or writing things down as you see them on a page, or putting sticky notes in a book when you're reading, or but also then that becomes your logical side. But what's your creative? How do you make that your own? So adding color, adding pictures, drawing. So for example, if I'm sequencing something, I will often draw storyboards.
Okay.
And we'll put that as a link through so that they can see what's happening, or I can see what's happening. So when I'm teaching a class, it's often in storyboard form so that I know where I'm going next, rather than seeing it in prose and being like, what do I mean by that? There's a video that's visual, and that gives me a cue, and that's really helped my students. And some of them are like, actually audio, because now obviously all WhatsApp and phones and technology going up in the world, they have that kind of voice note malark that they can just, after class, they'll go away, go for a walk, get the air into their brain and go, right, okay, let me talk about what's just happened. I'll talk about my experience, and that will help them remember. Or they'll video it themselves and then annotate where they think they're going wrong. So they're kind of finding their own strategies to work with based on, the one idea of notating. So then the idea of notating has gone into creative, which is then their own, which is their exploration, which is fantastic.
I love that. I have an element of, when I was kind of, started my own business many years ago, I would write things down, and then I'd take it back to the office and I'd always, for some reason, write in the top right-hand corner of a page. So literally just kind of like the square, you probably can't see it, but the square up there. And then I'd go through, I didn't even know I was doing it, just reams and reams of paper, and I would miss out 3/4 of the paper. But I still don't know, now I still have an element of doing that, literally just the top. And I'd write notes down, and then they'd get back, and then they wouldn't obviously be able to understand what it was I was trying to relay the message. And then it got to a point where I actually then used colors. I started drawing diagrams, and then, yes, it was not an element that they could completely understand, but in my own head, it triggered those moments to be able to decipher exactly what was saying. For me, I see everything I relate everything in pictures. So, if someone, interviewing you today, I remember, lots of things, but obviously, wearing a hat, or if someone wearing a tie, or, a red top, or those elements, they literally kind of just trigger, that element to me. I don't know if that sees different on you.
I think I'm very similar. Interestingly, my friend, yesterday I was talking to her, and we were doing something because we're creating this whole new coaching. We're pushing the boundaries of coaching, if you like. And she said to me, actually, we were talking about stuff. And then I said, oh, but wait, let me draw you something. And I just drew this thing, and it made so much sense then to me, because I'd actually done it visually. I'd drawn it so that so we were both able to understand it. And she goes, is that something that really helps you? This visual thing, is that, because also we've trained together in our coaching course, that then we were like, yeah, that actually really helps. And it's kind of like, I said to her, like images and visual aids, when I have them, just help solidify an idea. They help to me to process everything that's been said, because obviously sometimes it can be quite a lot that's going on, or the conversation wise, you know, short, sweet, better. But, you know, you want to have that conversation, so you take notes or you do things like that. But then to actually put them into a visual context,
yes,
helps solidify that idea. And then that's the wonder of it. That's beautiful. I find that so wonderful.
Absolutely. So you say at the start of this, you said, well, I just kind of went into dance. You know, is there always been a passion in that sense, or was it just you were very good at it? Do you have a natural gift? I'd say natural gift. I don't mean to say natural gift, because we know how hard, you know, you can say you have a natural gift. Behind the gift is the incredible hard work and dedication that you put into it. So, but was it always a passion, or?
I think I've always had I loved musical theatre. Growing up, I've always loved it. And I grew up in a very small town in Somerset, and there wasn't much of it. You know, there was a local arts centre, and I joined as soon as I could. As soon as I really knew it was there, I joined, and I got in. I was doing the pantomimes. I was doing all of like the midsummer shows, and, you know, old worldy kind of musicals that people can afford in small towns. And I think it just came from that. I think because I was in love with the arts, it came from that. But there's also, and I know that this is something that I also want to chat about, but it's this stigma around, you know, dyslexia, arts, go into it. It's going to be, it's the easy form for you. In a sense, you're going to be creative. And there is that stigma, but it's, I don't know. It was a thought process that kind of went on because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what I was doing. It was explorative. It enabled me to keep that kind of, I guess, if you like, childlike quality to myself, because I was able just to explore again. I was able to just be free. There wasn't the restrictions of writing 20,000 essays in a year.
Yeah, and that's the element, isn't it? You know, they say if you find something that you enjoy to do on a daily basis, you never work a day in your life. And yes, and I think you can kind of work through the pain barrier of there's probably certain elements of every single job that we don't prefer to do, but the stuff that we do prefer outweighs that tenfold. So if I can just bring back to your dyslexia and your diagnosis, how was that for you? What age was it? What did the process look like, and what did that feel for you, Rob? If you don't mind sharing.
No, absolutely not. It's so I found out at 18, and it was just when I just got to university and was like, oh wow, there's a name to this kind of failure that's been going on for the whole time. You know, I've struggled through school. I was like in primary school, it was there. It's always been there. People have known that dyslexia is around, right? Yeah. And my primary school made it out to be this most amazing new thing that was happening, and you get to go into a different classroom and you get to go and new things. And I was like, oh wow, great, really good. I'm taken out of class, going into a different room, and then you see the people that are there, and you start to see a theme: people that are struggling, people that are a little bit behind. And even at that age, you become aware that you're different if you want. You don't know why. You have no idea. You've got no idea why you can't pick up as fast as anyone else. And then this was just a stream throughout my whole time in education, just being put somewhere else because no one knows what to do with me. And no one knew how to deal with my creativity or my way of thinking, or because I couldn't get my thoughts onto paper. Like, it just wasn't coming out. It just, like, I would have such creative ways of writing or ways of thinking, but it wasn't accessed in the same way as like everyone who could write essays and get A's, So I worked so hard to get to the GCSEs that I did, and then I actually chose to do English at A-level because my parents were like, you need to do one academic subject, and I was like, science is not for me, maths is not for me, so let me do English. Not for me. Let me do something. And I was like, oh, I also kind of want to try law. No, don't try law. Don't even go there. So I just did English, and then I did a lot of art. So I did art, English, and performing arts at college. And I managed to get a B out of that, And I'm so, at that time, even without knowing, I was dyslexic, I was struggling, and I really struggled, but I managed to find something that had worked for me, being able to get writing down, you know, get my thoughts, really worked on it, really honed in on those skills.
Yeah.
And I don't, at that point, I have no idea what it was, because when I got to college, when I got to uni, and they said, oh yeah, but you're like dyslexic, have this test. And then it came back, and I'm like mild to moderate. Then I was mild to moderately dyslexic, if you want to put it on a spectrum. And it just kind of, it hit me a bit like, oh, but now there's a name to this failure. Okay, great. So if I fail the essays in uni, it's because I'm dyslexic. And I just used it for an excuse, as an excuse for so long while I was at uni writing these essays. And it really affected me in that way. I kind of went, it's failure. Okay, great. That if I do that, I'm failing. So, you know, and now there's a name to this, forgetting that I'd managed to get B's in English at A-level and all of my other programs. I mean, I was across the spectrum I got from A to E in GCSEs, but like, and then, you know, I got A to C in A-levels. And I was like, you know, that is a step up, and that's something that is amazing that I did that myself. So why then do I associate it with failure? And then failure is the thing that I take through my first year of uni. And that was something I really struggled with, you know, that idea that this dyslexic word is what have I associated with failure. And it took me so long to see it as a positive. It took me so long to see it as a positive.
Well, when we say, you know, you mentioned, going to university, you know, dyslexic individual, you know, person, incredibly difficult, you know, knowing dyslexia going into that, those elements as well. And then we, like you said, was it the fact that you were attaching, failure because of that you felt, oh, I'm dyslexic, so I can't achieve that, or the grades I wasn't getting, I would have got more if I was not dyslexic, or, you know, and that's a common theme for everything. And I've gone through that, you know, so many times, so many points in my life, you know, the feeling like you're not adequate in certain elements. But what was it for you? Was it that because of that attachment to dyslexia, you just felt everything was just much more harder, or that just stuck with you and changed your mindset?
It's interesting. I think the association with failure comes, as you said, it's like, because I now have a reason for it to be something, because I've always found it hard. Even though I did okay, I always found it hard. And those moments where I was told, oh, if you don't change that, you're going to fail, or if you don't do this, you're going to fail. I think that's then where I went, all of those struggles now have a name. So all of that failure now has a name.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's where the failure word comes in for me, is like all of the struggle that I've had to go through that I've deemed as failure in my life, which actually has just made me who I am today. And I'm
exactly
successful in a way in my own respect. And it's just this word failure that associated with this word dyslexia that I think everyone will resonate with in some way.
So at what point then, Rob, did you kind of grasp that dyslexia and then flip it on its head, so to speak? I mean, not totally in that, and you know, kind of, you know, begin to kind of forgive yourself for maybe some of the things that you didn't achieve that you thought because of dyslexia, and then just, you know, started on this journey now of understanding and helping other people, but also having that inner belief and that confidence, you know, within you. At what stage did that get? How long ago was that, not revelation, but did you start putting those things in place?
So I think it was from about when I was 24, so 2015, I think it was. And I just kind of went like, wow, why have I put such a limit on myself?
Yeah.
And it's almost limiting me rather than allowing myself to kind of fly, if you like, or find that complete creative freedom that I've been given. And it was when I was doing my master's, and I did my whole master's exploration on self and embodiment. And that made me really look at my own way of being.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, okay, I really need to assess something here.
Yes.
And I think that's when I really honed it. I really went, right, okay. And I think that was the very beginning of it. And then it's kind of, I've only really got into this research in the last year and a half, and kind of looked at transformational coaching and how coaching can help in the last 6 or 7 months, ever since we went into lockdown, because that was something that came out of my research and working online. And how do I now help people identify, even though they're online, and how do they need to identify?
Yes.
So it's kind of like I've kind of harnessed as I've gone along. I've developed more and more and more kind of want to help, or want to kind of share my story, share how I've got to where I am now.
Yeah.
By, I guess, process of elimination, working my way into that and kind of going, right, okay, great, that's worked, that hasn't, that's worked, that hasn't, trial and error. And
incredible.
It's kind of, you start again. Once you start to realize, and once you start to see it as a power, not a hindrance, it's a whole other process. You've got to identify it. Then you've got to explore what that is. You've got to really kind of know. So how do you do that without having awareness? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was speaking to, and I may have shared this before on social media or whatever, but I spoke to an individual, a gentleman who's the age of 76, and he recently got diagnosed with dyslexia. And it was almost, speaking to this individual, it was almost like he felt kind of reborn in some aspects, in the sense of, he kind of went through a process. He went, 76 is kind of a very, a late stage in your life to be diagnosed with dyslexia. And I think it was just around, there was a lot of awareness. And I think he just kind of thought, well, actually, I'm going to find out, what these things mean. What does dyslexia mean? What does that look like? And, speaking to him, it kind of, I would say kind of a new lease of life, but it almost put a lot of things into perspective. And I guess, for me, finding out at the age of 36, as I mentioned before, there was a lot of forgiveness, in the sense of the promotions I didn't get, the jobs I didn't get, and these. But I really do see it. The more I speak to people, the more I see that there are so many attributes that we tend to kind of forget. If we didn't get that promotion, or we didn't get that job, or we didn't do something, we ultimately blame it onto the dyslexia. But there's so many other things that we've done and we've achieved that we haven't credited, maybe the way that our minds work, and with dyslexia as well. I guess we're always going down the narrative of always thinking more of, the failure and the negative than we are the positive. And listening to you mentioning around how you see it as a positive in these aspects and that, now it's similar to what I do. It's just it's a real blessing, a real kind of relief that we're looking at it in that aspect.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm very fortunate that I was diagnosed at 18. And like now, I know that some of my people that I coach that are dyslexic, like their children are getting diagnosed at 4, at 5. And I think this is wonderful. Like that kind of, now that realization that testing needs to happen earlier, or that kind of realization that testing does need to happen in general, or like that awareness that this is out there. Because I do believe you've got to process it, right?
Yes.
You've got to have that chance. And if I'd had that chance earlier, who knows where I would have gone? I would have probably thought I could explore more avenues. I can open that up for myself. I'm not talking for everyone. I'm talking about, if I had that chance to explore earlier on exactly how this works, I could have opened up a lot more avenues. I could have gone, right, well, actually, I have a real interest in physiotherapy. Let's go down that route, instead of almost self-sabotaging myself, going, no, you're not intelligent enough to do that. Just ignore that.
Has it made you more kind of hungrier to learn more, or to achieve more in since kind of the diagnosis? Because I always think, at the age of 36, I kind of, the educational side I felt was kind of, it's not stolen from me, but it just didn't work. So my key to, I'm really hungry about learning and meeting people and learning new skills and connecting. Do you feel that that's, since you've the light bulb's gone on, or that little switch, you feel like you're more hungrier now than ever to absorb things?
Totally. I wish I had that before. Like, I wish I had that before 18, because I didn't enjoy learning. But now I absolutely love it. I'm doing something online at the moment, and another thing to put onto the CV, and I've just finished my transformational coaching course and got the diploma, and I've done thing about like AFHEA, which is the Associate Fellowship for Advanced Teaching at higher education. And I'm doing so many things to better myself now. I don't really like the word better yourself, but I get what you've already got, or develop your self-development, maybe.
Yes,
better. To kind of, and that's just so like, and I haven't stopped. And that kicked in during like this lockdown. And I think this lockdown has been so powerful for me personally. Well, not this one, the first one. The first lockdown. Personally, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is new. Let's explore this. What can I do in this time? How can I remain creative? How can I remain like present in this time, but also develop and learn new skills and not get too bogged down with it?
Yeah.
So I've done that, and I've learned so many new skills. And this is something that, from that question, yeah, it's totally. Ever since that light bulb has clicked, and I've gone, yes, this is interesting. I've got a power that I have, and that's personal to me. That's my unique power.
Get it?
I'm going to use that. I'm going to hone in on that and go, yeah, let's do this.
Rob, it's so commendable, and I share that element massively. That's how I feel on a daily basis within my strengths are, I literally go all in now on what I feel good at, what I like doing, and I really kind of go in, all in on that now, and I feel that it's so much more fulfilling than trying to work into a system that does one I don't enjoy, or it doesn't work for me. It's like an uphill struggle. Rob, you mentioned about lockdown just briefly. Being obviously within dance and very kind of active in your industry has really kind of struggled in so many aspects. How did that affect you in the sense of taking what you do normally in person to then being able to kind of not do it in person? That must have been a real struggle in so many avenues.
Well, like I literally had just finished a performance contract just as we went into lockdown, and I was teaching and performing at the same time. And I think the biggest impact it had was it almost showed me that I haven't stopped in 30 years. I've kind of just gone, my life has literally just been go. And now I've got the chance to kind of stop, evaluate, and look at it from a different perspective. I personally never saw the first lockdown, especially, as a negative. I saw it as a chance to be creative, to be different, and especially with teaching. That was a whole new creative challenge, to dance in a meter square space and teach students how to dance in a meter square space is so different, especially as a tactile person like me. When I'm teaching, physical correction so they can feel that is important to learn, and also not being so, sometimes with corrections it's really hard to articulate what you want because it's their body, it's not yours. So to actually have to articulate and kind of visually give that correction, as well as kind of verbally thinking about what you're saying and making sure that you're not saying anything that's going to affect their mentality in any way, about how they're feeling about themselves or at this time, that was such a struggle to kind of deal with, because I'm such a tactile person that then to lose all of that tactileness and be like, okay, I'm just a screen now, how do I help you?
And I guess it's, you've learned more about yourself, and like you said, harnessing those skills, and maybe those skills may not have, they may have happened in the future, but they're really kind of forced. You forced your hand really to adapt in those ways, which is truly incredible. You did exactly the same. I've not stopped since at all. I mean, I've evaluated and we looked at different things as well. But I've always kind of thought, how do we continue to connect with people across the globe? So we created a global network, an online global network, which we, I think we had kind of around 16 different countries, all kind of just networking for an hour once a month. So, created the Neurodiversity stories, all these different things that I thought, okay, so, training courses, rather than doing them in person, we've done them online. And I agree. It's for me, and just like yourself, it's then going, okay, so you've got these set of skills. How do you enhance them? How do you strengthen them? And how do you continue doing what you're doing, what you love doing, and ultimately helping people as well? So really commendable on that one, Rob.
And I think it's the same when I go into the coaching, and how I think coaching will really support neurodiversity is the fact that it's a chance to explore. Yeah. It's a chance to really kind of go, oh, let me look at myself for a minute. Even if you know, because a lot of us dyslexics also, or neurodiversity, neurodivergence, we know where our struggles are, and we know potentially how we're working with them, and we found a way. But there might be a more efficient way. There might be a way to look at this creative power. There might be something else. And especially with the way I coach, I'm not your traditional kind of coach. I get my iPad out, we draw, we explore, we get really involved in that kind of way. And it's very client-led. Like, it's all about them. I never inject anything from me. I will give offerings, but it's that kind of vibe to give them that power of thinking through talking. So because we often find ourselves talking and not really thinking about it, whereas actually now, with power of questioning, power of just being you for an hour of your time, completely allows you to explore in a completely different way, and that can really open up and harness your creative power. That is your neurodiversity.
I completely agree. I mean, what can I just go back to, so what is it like being a dancer with dyslexia? Do you feel that the industry is supported you within that? Do you see elements where there could be more? I mean, obviously, I know you know, being a transformation coach, dyslexic coach as well, so you're doing incredible work as well. Did you see that there's lots of things that you can kind of help and support, and is the industry helping currently with that as well?
The industry is trying. I think the word that I will put is, it's really trying. It's really exploring ways to help and understand and bringing awareness. There's more artists now that are bringing awareness to neurodiversity and bringing awareness to how their struggles were, because again, it's different for everyone. It's like musical theatre, that's a bit more stringent, and kind of you've got to have all three. It's not just the one, and that's acting, singing. You've got to read music. You've got to do all of those things, which is a minefield of processing. So I think it's in the arts, they're trying. I guess it needs more. It needs more awareness. It needs more talking about it. It needs more kind of drawing off of people's experiences and honing in on those things. But they're trying, hence why, like, what I appreciate about Laban especially is the fact that they're allowing me to do these things. They're allowing me to explore with the students. They're allowing me to do this research. So I think, yes, the arts world is trying. It needs more, like everything else, but time and patience and allowing them to be exploring with us, and them seeing the explorations and being aware that these are going on. That's important.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on, Rob, in those elements. And I guess we tend to, if we think of dyslexia and we mention who is dyslexia, we straight away we'll pick business moguls like Richard Branson, and then kind of celebrities like Orlando Bloom and all these different elements of people. And I think it homes in that if we can almost find someone, I mean, it'd be amazing if we can not make them specifically industry specific, that we got Richard Branson flying the flag for, entrepreneurs and businesses, and Orlando Bloom for celebrities and film stars and stuff. But I think to get that overall global awareness around it's amazing if we can pull people, to find out, like yourself, in what you do within your industry, what you do to raise awareness, your story. Those are really, really powerful within your industry, because what you'll have people that maybe want to do what you're doing, have dyslexia, think there's not a possibility of doing it, but your story will share, and the coaching work that you do enables people, I don't know, to kind of aspire to be like you, if that means.
Well, yeah, I guess in a sense, like, at the same time, I want them to be themselves. I want them to find their way. Like when I'm teaching, I've got 20 odd students. but I want them to be their own unique selves through dancing. I want them to explore. My whole kind of philosophy through my teaching, I guess, if you want, is dance. I'll teach you something, but I don't want to see 20 Robs in a room. I want to see you. I want to see you as a performer. I want to see you with your autonomy, with how you want to do that material. I will talk about technique. I will talk about what it is. There's specific things you need to know, but I want you to find you. And I guess that also relates to my coaching. I want you to find you. It's about the wider perspective. It's looking further away. It's like the whole thing, right? It's not like the process of, rather than the detail of going, we need to work on this, or this is happening and we need to figure out that. It's the wider perspective through the whole thing that I'm looking at.
Absolutely, and that individuality of someone, because ultimately they need to find themselves within that and find their own way of doing something. And within dance, it's very, the expression element of it, and it's very unique, to that individual as well. So how can transforming coaching support neurodiversity? Do you feel, Rob? If you don't mind
I think it's a real way to be curious about you. It's a real way to explore you, because often we think we've explored, or we've been told to do something, but we haven't explored what that is. And I think neurodiversity and coaching gives you that chance to kind of go, this is me. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm okay with who I am. And therefore, it might even bring that light bulb moment that goes, oh my gosh, I've got this power. I understand that creative power. I can use that to help me kind of move forward. Like I can stop being, like, in a sense, stuck or feeling like I'm trapped in what I'm doing every day. Or it could even just be as simple as, I don't want to be clumsy anymore. And you'll really understand how you can really harness those things by talking it through, because, and the power that I have now is that I can actively listen. I will give you that full hour. You have that hour just to talk if you want.
Yes.
There doesn't have to be questioning. It can just be your space, however you want it. And that is the power that comes with that. And we as neurodivergents often don't get that. Because people, and also having someone who is neurodivergent actually understand where you're coming from and actually understand where the root is. Not that I'll ever project my way of thinking onto you, but it's having that understanding that that person who is sat there understands what you're talking about, rather than someone who doesn't. And it becomes very challenging then. And that's the power. It allows you to be creative, understand what that creative power is, and flourish. Finding a way to flourish.
And you mentioned about just talking, and one of the biggest things when I speak to organizations, or you're out speaking to individuals, organizations, schools, colleges, whatever it is, the first question they ask is, how do we make a difference? How do we start? And it's just ultimately, I always say, just start the conversation. We tend to think that we need to have all the answers from day one, but you hit the nail on the head straight away. It's kind of, look, just talk to me, and I think that's just a natural human instinct to just say, look, to get things started, let's talk. People, I guess, people don't kind of see how powerful that can be. We try and think, right, okay, solution. This is how we feel it is. But when you said you could just talk to someone for an hour, if someone would say, well, you're just talking. You're not just talking. You're finding so much more about the individual and what makes them tick, and what help and support they need, but what drives them. But I think that conversation's so underrated, so powerful.
It's powerful because you never really you often think, oh yeah, I can talk, but talk about yourself for an hour. Try. Just because that's really hard sometimes. You get to about 15 minutes in, and you're like, am
I doing much? Am I doing this? What am I saying? And you go, no. But you're absolutely right. You break that down, and when someone starts kind of hearing it, and it's down on paper, or or there's drawings, I think it's incredibly powerful. I'm so with you on that one, Rob.
And we don't see our blind spots as we are as people. We don't see what we say all the time. Like someone might say, I guess, or I think a lot. And then it's questioning what is that? What comes up for you when you say I guess or I think? What's the thought process there? And they're like, oh, never thought of that before. What does that mean? And then, engaging in that way of looking at something a completely different way, finding multiple perspectives to look at it. Because I always say to everyone, it's never 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's 2 steps forward, take 1 to the side. Don't ever take a step back, take it to the side. Because, then you've got a chance to look around it. Rather than taking a step back and being further away from it, take a step to the side, go around, have a look, explore that look for a while, and then come back onto the road. Don't just automatically think about going back.
Absolutely love that. That's the best analogy. I've never heard that. And do you own that one, Rob?
Unfortunately, damn it.
Just panned it. There we go. Rob owns that. Rob, we're coming up to our time, and like I said at the start, I could just talk to you for hours and hours and hours. But Rob, where can people find you? If I will put all of your details on the comments below anyway, and we will be putting this out, repurposing it onto YouTube and a podcast as well. So I'll send all the details out. But if you could just tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me here on LinkedIn, and that is just under my name, Robert Keates. And also there's a specific coaching page on Instagram, that's the word, which is blankcanvas.coaching. And then my personal one on Instagram is Robert J. Keates.
Amazing.
And all just be found there.
So that's amazing. I'll put all these details on there so people can connect with you, Rob. Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on this talk, and I can't thank you enough for your time. I wish you the very best in what you're doing in the future. Hopefully, very soon we'll be coming out of this lockdown, and then you'll be able to kind of get back to teaching in person, which will be, I'm sure, very exciting for you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been wonderful. Yeah,
bless you, Rob. Thank you so much. And I will see you again soon. Cheers, Rob. Bye-bye. So guys, that was our neurodiversity stories with Robert Keates. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. He's an absolutely incredible chap doing incredible things within this industry and helping as many people as possible with regards to dyslexia. We'll be back next Friday at the same time, 11 o'clock. We'll be streaming this out live as normal. So guys, if you have a story to share and you'd love to come on to Neurodiversity Stories, then please message below or email us, and we would love to take part. Take care, guys, and we will see you very soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.